All right, this is JP. I'm here with Megan O'Carroll. We actually simultaneously did a poll on Instagram of most overrated neighborhoods and most underrated neighborhoods. What did your fan base?
Yeah, we'll call it fan base.
What's your fan base say was the most overrated neighborhood?
Okay, so I think, I didn't actually tally it, but like a quick poll, it looks like my top two were River North and West Loop.
So then why do you think people picked River North and West Loop?
I think River North because it gets real clubby.
Yeah.
And it gets like kind of, I don't know, after hours, people don't really want to put up with it. Loud, sirens. And I think people they fantasize the high rise and then they get it and they hate it. Or love it.
I can see that. Why West Loop?
I think they put too much hype on it and like everybody who thought they were cool moved there. And then there's just like tons of restaurants. There's not the best transportation. I think they thought it was gonna be, I don't know, easier to get to. Because I feel like people that live on the north side, they're like, I'm not going there because my Uber is $50.
Agreed. So like, here's what's funny is my fan base, they picked also River North and West Loop.
Oh really? Okay.
Yep.
Why do you think?
So here's what I think, because when I think of the people who follow us, most of us are probably people who are friends and family from Chicago. And I think River North is party central. It just is. It's the clubs, like you said, it's the bars. You walk outside, it's nonstop, it's always going. The high-rise feel seems like, yeah, I want a high-rise. And then you walk outside and go, this guy's puking on my sidewalk. Super cool. Like it's a lot. And if you want to go out in Chicago, River North is probably, and you're from Chicago, River North is not on the list. It's never on the list.
True.
West Loop, it has some of the best restaurants in the city, probably in America. It has a ton of Michelin star restaurants. And I think that is a big allure to people. But Chicago has so many good restaurants. Like they're holding the walls and some that, are $125 a plate.
I think West Loop lacks charm. Like I think they try to create it with all these restaurants, but then you kind of see through it.
God, that's good. That's good. Wow. I guess I'm not going to West Loop anymore. It lacks charm because they made it. It's like if Disneyland made only a restaurant place. It's West Loop. It's every single restaurant you could possibly want that you can't find anywhere else, and you can walk from each one. Man, that's good.
Deep.
That's real good. That's deep. I like that. So yeah, okay. So now,
should we switch over to underrated?
Yeah, we'll switch over to underrated.
I just posted mine this morning, so it'll probably lag.
That's fine.
Well, I guess I have Lakeview East twice.
Lakeview East, okay.
Lincoln Square, Andersonville.
Lakeview East, Lincoln Square, Andersonville.
Uptown and Buena Park.
Okay.
What was yours?
So for underrated, for me, my top ones were Avondale and Pilsen.
I got Bronzeville.
All right, I'll start with mine. So Avondale. So I got my top two for underrated was Avondale and Pilsen. And here's why I think people pick that. Avondale is closer into the city and it's more central. You're also right off of 9094, so like you can get to downtown on a good day, maybe 8 minutes, on a bad day, probably 88 minutes. But you can get there fairly quickly, but it's the value of the home. One of the last neighborhoods to have value. So you can still find a good single family home, because if you try to find one in like Lincoln Park or some of those fancy neighborhoods people like, you probably need $1 million, $1.5 million. Where I feel like in Avondale, you could probably still find 500,000, 600,000, 700,000. And what I've noticed too, like the square footage is more as far as even condos.
I wonder like if we took purchase price out of it, which of course everyone cares about. Like I think underrated as far as like doesn't get enough credit. From like a neighborhood perspective, not necessarily.
See, like I live like on the edge of Avondale, and I've lived there before, and it's hard to compare because every other neighborhood on the east side of Chicago, they're so close knit together. And you can jump from one to another. So Lincoln Park bleeds into Lakeview bleeds into Uptown, and it just feels like one neighborhood. Where Avondale like just is in the center of everything. What I think people like about it is that you don't have neighborhoods that bleed into it, and it becomes its own. This is what
its
we're
own
about.
identity.
This is its own identity.
Right.
This is what it's about. I feel like that will probably be the biggest thing that will probably make it underrated.
That's a good point, because I feel like Ravenswood kind of falls into like Lincoln Square and Andersonville, and those three then all kind of become one.
Yep. And even
I'm trying to think what I think is the most underrated, like truly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do. What
I
do
don't
you
know.
think?
I'm trying
This
to
is
think.
good. What do you think the most underrated is?
I feel like Andersonville doesn't get enough credit. Like I think people that live there love it, are obsessed with it, but people who are like more the River North side are like, I would die before I went to Andersonville.
I think people outside of Chicago know about Andersonville more than people inside Chicago. It was rated like #1 city.
Right, and so that's why I don't want to say underrated.
People in Chicago thinks it's far.
Right, so I think it doesn't. I do think that's the one neighborhood that doesn't get enough credit, because
I agree.
the only thing, it is a little bit far from like downtown if you work in the Loop or something. But who works in an office anymore?
Nobody.
Yeah, I would say Andersonville.
Andersonville. If I was to say one, I would say Uptown. It's the last one on the East Coast that I feel like people aren't aware of yet.
And you can get them views.
And you can get views. You can get close to the lake. You can get close to Andersonville. You can get close to Wrigley. You're right next to the Red Line.
True.
And the architecture of that neighborhood, a lot of them are giving you front and back decks. You normally have a shared deck in the front and a private
outdoor
deck.
Space.
Yeah. So
and that was everyone's number one request.
Number one request. JP, I want a 1-bedroom with a rooftop deck.
Right. I want 6 outdoor spaces.
Yes, I want one for my dog, one for my
$200,000.
One for my right foot, and I only want to spend.
Right.
But yeah, it was the number one thing. And I lived in Uptown for a little while, and I didn't realize how not common 2 outdoor spaces was everywhere else at a certain price point.
True.
Because if you're going to Lincoln Park or Lakeview at a certain price point, like you're just not getting the outdoor space.
Right.
You might not even get HVAC. You might not.
True. That is so true. Yeah, you're working with a window unit.
You're working with a window unit, and you're gonna love it. Like, that's the hard part where there is more. I feel like value in that neighborhood, and it still has a long way to go.
For sure. I think another one that surprised me is like Ravenswood / North Center, like down Ravenswood. Like there's a lot of really super cool like industry looking lofts. There's like a ton of breweries if you're into that. Like I just feel like it's a little bit of a hidden gem that people don't explore.
I love down Lincoln and Lincoln Square because it gives you
super cute.
Here's what I like is it gives you, if West Loop was authentic, it will probably be Lincoln Square. No? God.
I don't know, because I think West Loop tries so hard to be upscale, but looking like it's on not looking like it's on a lower budget, but like they try so hard without like the lack of the culture essentially, but they like imposter syndrome.
West Loop sometimes can feel like a giant cafeteria with really nice options.
Yeah,
like
that's a good point.
It's like it's just like, wow, this restaurant's amazing, this restaurant's amazing.
Right.
But if you take all those away, there is nothing there.
Right.
Like, there's nothing else.
It's just a bunch of buildings.
It's just a bunch of buildings. Like you get to the edge of like Aberdeen and like May and you cross the street, you're like, what? There's literally nothing. There's literally nothing. You fall off the edge of the neighborhood.
That's true.
So like I feel like it's built around that. And so that means if you go there, that's the only thing you're probably going to do.
Right. Yeah. You're going to eat, drink, and then you're going to take your $50 Uber home.
Yeah, because it feels very fabricated. It feels very fabricated. But I like it.
I like it. I don't want to say I don't like it. I just think that is probably why it got the overrated title.